City Center Radio. It is episode number 34, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Happy New Year. It's our first show of 2022. I hope you all had a great holiday season and enjoyed your New Year's festivities, stayed out of trouble, and hopefully things are off to a good start here in the new year, despite the fact we're basically still in 2020. It's just this loop that we're stuck in. But I hope you're staying positive and doing what makes you happy out there as we kick off a new year. And I am excited to kick off the new year with a new episode of Holy City Center Radio. So excited to be back. Next month, I think, is our year anniversary of doing the show. I can't believe that much time has gone by already, and just having so much fun. And after a little short break for the holidays, we are back and ready to roll. And this week's guest is Courtney Buckley. She is owner of Your Mom's Donuts, which is in Charlotte, but she also opened a location here in the Charleston area. Unfortunately, it had to close, and they're looking for a new location. We're going to get an update on that, but also want to talk about another role she has started here in Charleston. She is one of the founders of Females on Fire. It's a women's group for members of Charleston's culinary community. What exactly they do, how you can be involved. We're going to learn all about that a little later in the show. First, some quick personal updates. As you know, we were on the break for the holidays. I was lucky enough and was very happy to be able to go back to Connecticut to see my parents and my brother and his family. I had a great time. When I arrived, it was starting to snow, and the next day there was plenty of snow on the ground, which was pretty great. So I actually had a white Christmas, which is rare, as all of you listening and live in Charleston know. That doesn't happen a lot, period, let alone on Christmas. So that was nice, just kind of really put me in the Christmas mood, being home, number one, and, where all my favorite Christmas memories are from when I was a kid, and also having snow on the ground. It was just great to be there during that time. And even though it was a little chilly, I didn't mind. We stayed inside pretty much every day. We didn't go out and do too much between, the weather and me having limited time. And of course, COVID being the way that it's been for a little while now. We didn't, do too much besides hang out with each other, and that was fine by me. We had a great time. And of course, the highlight is always seeing my niece and nephew and just watching them be so amped about Christmas and then celebrating the holiday and opening all their presents, and just, it was just amazing. It's always great seeing them be so excited and having a good time. And it was a blast being able to see them. A short trip, and I was back here. And, had a few days to get back, relaxing before getting back to work and everything. And, it was nice to have a little bit of break from things, and glad to be back. Other than that, didn't do too much, again, with COVID being the way it is and everything, I haven't gone out and done a ton of things. But I did want to mention real quick, friends of the podcast, Sachet, opened up a pop-up of sorts at the Restoration Hotel, which has this little place called The Port, which is attached to the building, and they have, different businesses will go there from time to time. And so congratulations to Emily Heinz, who appeared on one of our episodes towards the end of last year. For those who don't remember, the business sells all sorts of beverages, non-alcoholic, whether it's beer, wine, or even liquors, they sell that are non-alcoholic that you can use, to make mocktails, or some are ready to drink out of the can and things like that. So I was able to attend kind of like an opening celebration. The space was great. Got to try out some more of their products, which were a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the pop-up is over. It ended just this past week or so, but they are looking for a permanent space, and hopefully they'll be able to do that, and we'll keep you posted. In the meantime, they plan to do things like Second Sunday and maybe pop up somewhere else, but hopefully it won't be too much longer. They'll have their own store space. But yeah, it was nice to see Emily in person, since I hadn't, obviously we did the interview over the phone. So it was nice to finally meet her in person. And some people she had there, employees, as well as, some people from the companies of the products she sells, they were there. So it was good. It was a nice little time there, and was made extra exciting since I don't get out of the house much these days. So it always feels like it's a big event when you get to go out and do something even little. I'm not complaining. I'm happy to not go out that much, given the circumstances. But yeah, it is always a little thrilling to get out of the house. But that's it. Yeah, not a whole lot going on otherwise. Just like I said, just starting off the new year. Things are going good so far, and we're hoping they continue. All right. So what have we missed over the last few weeks? I've got a couple stories to update everybody on. Most of these are actually pretty new, and it was kind of quiet, as quiet as things can be during the holidays. Not a whole lot of big news stories or anything, but over the last few days, it's picked up as we get going here. First up, Representative Nancy Mace has tested positive for COVID-19 again. She announced that on Monday, which was the 10th of January. She posted it on her social media channels. She said in her statement that one of her children tested positive for COVID-19 on Monday morning, so she decided to get tested positive. And as I mentioned, that's now her second time having COVID. Now, this time around, because her first time was June of 2020 that she tested positive. And at that time, there was no vaccination or anything like that. This time around, she says she is fully vaccinated. I don't know if that means she got her booster or not, but she at least has the 1 or 2 shots, to be considered fully vaccinated. And said she's feeling okay, and she has much more milder symptoms compared to the first time, which of course makes sense because she has the vaccine this time and didn't have it previously. She's discussed, her battles with long haul COVID after that first bout, so she has mentioned some of the kind of longer term issues that not everybody always mentions about having COVID. So we obviously hope she gets better soon, and we'll see what happens. But so far, the good news is because she is fully vaccinated, it is helping with the symptoms be mild, and I would imagine she'll bounce back pretty quickly. So just another reason to get vaccinated. A lot of people are testing positive, and includes vaccinated people, but they are, as we've said all along, less likely to be hospitalized, less likely to pass away from COVID as well. So if you haven't got vaccinated yet or have not gotten boosted, please do so. It's definitely for your own benefit. All right, moving on from COVID, some more politics stuff. The race for Charleston City Council's District 1 seat is headed for a runoff, and it came down to 3 votes. So people always like, oh, my vote doesn't matter, or, well, it would have in this race if you had gone to vote. So only 3 votes separated the second and third place people in the special election for that District 1 seat, which was vacated when former council member Marie Del Chapo announced that she would be stepping down due to health reasons. That was back in October. That's what opened up the seat, for the special election. So the top vote getter was Boyd Gregg, and he goes on to the runoff. That second and third place, only being separated by 3 votes. Well, second place was Sean Pinkston. Jen Gibson was in third. She has already conceded, even though it automatically triggers a recount. She just feels that, even though it's just 3 votes, that it's not going to go her way. So that means the runoff election will be between Boyd Gregg and Sean Pinkston. So that will be something to look forward to see what will happen there. And so that runoff, for those of you who are in District 1, will take place on January 25th. So be sure to look into those candidates, try to figure out which one you think will be best, and then go and vote, because again, 3 votes are all that separated second and third place, and just a handful of people could have made a gigantic difference in that race. So yes, January 25th, we will move on to that. This past Tuesday, January 11th, Charleston City Council, those, we were just talking about, they have that open seat, but those who were there, they had a couple of big votes, and one of them was about the King Street Business Improvement District. They unanimously voted to create that district. The plan has actually been around in some variation since the mid-1970s, and it's changed titles and what they do, but they will, in this incarnation, will provide $10 million to King Street businesses over the next decade. The money will go to businesses on King Street between Line and Broad Streets. And they're supposed to be doing things like improve security for beautification efforts, holiday events, and some other amenities. So that's the plan. It's expected to begin providing funds in 2023. So it'll be a year before you see anything in regards to this, district that they've created. There was some pushback in the community about this because there wasn't a ton of information about what exactly this improvement district's going to do. There were some concerns about the lack of diversity on the group that's kind of behind it. There's still a lot of details that will be hammered out over the next year. Who is officially part of this improvement district, who's making decisions about who gets funds and how. So there were some concerns because it wasn't super clear how this would work. And a lot of times, business improvement districts, if you can look up articles and things, they tend to, harm certain businesses and communities more than others from other cities who have implemented things like these. Now, of course, that all depends on what sort of work that these improvement districts are going to do, because not every one is exactly the same. So something to keep an eye on. Hopefully it will be something that does help these businesses and will do the types of things they claim they're going to do, but certainly need to keep an eye on them and what exactly they're allowed to do once this is live, because again, historically for other cities, it tends to hurt specific communities and businesses, and you can imagine those tend to be minority-owned businesses. No surprise there. It's how it always tends to be, unfortunately. So something to keep an eye on as we go forward, but it was approved, so we will see what happens there. The other big issue that Charleston City Council took up at Tuesday's meeting was the next step in the city's Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation, which we've talked about several times. Since the end of the year, I don't remember if we talked about this in the last episode, but if not, they have since changed the name. It's now called Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. So when you hear me referring to that, that is what previously was known as the Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation. I think they were trying to, number one, shorten it and also try to I feel like the confusion. Well, all right. The other reason they did it was to get rid of some confusion about what the commission does or is attempting to do. My frustration you just heard is I don't really think there's any confusion. I think it's a lot of intellectually dishonest people who are claiming they're confused or are purposefully pushing false narratives about what this commission is going to do or is trying to do, which has led to the confusion. So again, I don't think the name really had anything to do with it. And I think it was one of those moves that they were just like, look, we'll change the name, So any event, I've been frustrated with this whole process, with this whole thing. And we've talked to Councilmember Jason Saccharin a couple times about this project and what it is and what it is not. And even some members of council at past meetings have said things that are completely false about this commission or said they're voting against it for reasons that weren't even accurate. We got a couple new members in the council now, but I have a feeling in the end it's going to kind of balance out to be the same problems that we had previously. So in any event, new name. And on Tuesday, they did thankfully pass the second reading, but they did choose to postpone the third and final vote on whether to approve the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. So moving forward is good. There were hours of debate. And so that is why they decided to wait on the final vote, give the community more time to look at what is in the commission's report and what it is that they're going to do. So very much still alive, and hopefully at the next meeting it will officially get approved and would be permanent. For those who don't remember, they have the goal of promoting equity, inclusion, and racial conciliation through presentations regarding all forms of institutional and community discrimination. That's a quote directly from their webpage. The members of that commission would also work with city government and partner with outside agencies in an effort to encourage and ensure diversity, fairness, equity, and inclusion throughout the city. So, yes, so that third and final reading is expected. There's still been some opposition from a couple members on the council, as well as, of course, when community comment section starts. I didn't see the whole thing, but from clips I saw and posts on social media, There's still a lot of misinformation out there about what this group does and doesn't do. There's a lot of concern. And again, some of it I don't think is actual concern, or it's people who have been confused by certain groups out there who I don't want to give oxygen to by naming. But saying, putting out things like this, this commission wants to defund the police, which isn't true. There's nothing in there about removing any funding from the police. There's talks about they want to put critical race theory in every school in South Carolina. There's nothing in the commission about that either. If there was, we could have debates about both those things. But so that's the biggest problem right now. There's a lot of they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and it's not even mentioned within the report or the commission's like mission statement or anything like that. So very frustrating. I encourage everyone to go look at the actual report and see what they're actually trying to do, because a lot of that like buzzwordy misinformation stuff, critical race theory, defund the police, all the things that just hearing those terms automatically trigger something in people in one direction or the other, and they're not even relevant to this conversation. So again, go check it out for yourself. I'm saying here, don't listen to the talking heads, and here I am being a talking head. So go look at it yourself. Go read it. Go see what's actually in there. Make a decision for yourself. Me personally, I want this commission to be permanent. I've had, like I said, we've talked to Jason Saccharin, council member Saccharin, multiple times about this. I've mentioned on the podcast, I've looked into it. This seems like a very good thing that's necessary for our city, but go do your own research. And by that, I mean actually reading the materials, not that go do your own research in the sense of go do your own research on COVID, where you just find a blog or a meme that, says what you want it to say. Actually go read it. It's pretty interesting stuff. All right, moving on off that little soapboxiness. Let's get away from politics. We've got this kind of bizarre situation that's going on in the Midlands in regards to earthquakes. Today, when I'm recording this, is Wednesday, January 12th. The 13th earthquake was recorded in the Midlands today. Actually, it was late Tuesday night, technically, but reported about on Wednesday. And it's the 13th earthquake recorded in the Midlands since late December. So in less than a month, they've had 13 earthquakes in that part of the state. Now, the important thing to know is these are very small earthquakes. So, for instance, the most recent one was a magnitude 1.3. That's not much of anything. And most of these earthquakes, actually all of them, have been in that kind of range where they'd be considered minor. So minor that some might not even have been felt by people. It might have been more just underground. And some that people have felt, but it's nothing super scary, maybe a little shaking for a few seconds, but there hasn't been any reports of things like damage and certainly no injuries or deaths. So, on the outside, that's good news. These aren't like these massive earthquakes happening. The bad news is why are so many happening so close together? When that is not normal. If this was something that was always happening, okay, it just is what it is. But the fact that there's just so many in such short succession is concerning. And so far, officials don't really seem to have a rhyme or reason for it. Hopefully, it's just one of those things that it'll just go away. But as many people know, there are some fault lines that South Carolina sits on, including Charleston, who is well overdue for a big earthquake, unfortunately. They had a massive one, I think it was 1886. Let me just check that real quick. Yes. There was an earthquake in Charleston in 1886 that caused 60 deaths and about $5 to $6 million in damages to 2,000 buildings. Of course, that's back in that time frame. It was one of the most powerful and damaging earthquakes that hit the East Coast of the United States when it happened, and still kind of is. So this area is not free from earthquakes. It could happen again. Again, the last big one we had was 1886. So who knows? Are these ramping up for one, or is it nothing to be concerned about? Unfortunately, this time we just don't know. So another thing to keep an eye on. And if you're in the Midlands, I don't know, maybe brush up on what to do if there is a bigger earthquake, because all these little ones could be leading to something. Hopefully not, but something to watch, as I mentioned. All right, no more politics, no more earthquakes. Let's talk about fun stuff. As I mentioned in the last episode, the music farm is returning to Charleston. It was bought by the folks over at the Charleston Music Hall. It had been up for sale for a while. The original owners wanted to keep it as a music venue, and thankfully they found a team of people at the music hall that will be doing just that. So the music hall team has been working on renovations and modifications. They're still ongoing. So they're going to make it, just kind of update the venue. Some of those updates include they're going to actually lower the capacity, make it a little bit more comfortable. But they are going to install brand new air conditioning units, which is much needed. They're going to replace the sound system, also a very necessary thing. They're going to do some other, what they're calling acoustic treatments to the room just to try to make the sound better. And they're also going to upgrade the amenities they have for the artists that come through. So those are all still going underway, but we do officially have the first round of show announcements that came out on the 11th, so Tuesday. The first show at the venue will be Susto on Friday, April 15th, a local performer. It's actually just one guy, but he has other people with him, but technically it's kind of like Dashboard Confessional. It's like one guy, but he has like a touring band. So that'll be the first show on the 15th. They'll actually be performing the next night as well, Saturday, April 16th. So they'll be the first two shows. A good start, a popular local band, a local venue. I think that's a great way to kick off things at the new and improved Music Farm. A group called Sunvolt will be there on Thursday, April 28th. And the final show announcement from that first group is the duo called Lawrence. They will be there on Sunday, May 1st. Tickets for all four shows go on sale Friday, January 14th at 10 a.m. So, excited to see the Music Farm is back, and we'll start hosting shows here pretty soon, just a few more months, and they'll be back up and running. I would expect to see more and more show announcements as they start gearing up. It'll be exciting to see, what artists start coming through. The music hall has gotten so many great musicians and comedians and more that have come through over the last, 5 to 7 years since Charles took over that venue and has really just done amazing work with the music hall. And I suspect they'll do the same with the Music Farm. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do there. You can go to musicfarm.com to stay up to date. You can sign up for their newsletter and all that good stuff. And with that, we will continue the good times as we will move on to this week's guest, Courtney Buckley. She is the owner of Your Mom's Donuts, which is based in Charlotte, North Carolina. She recently opened a location on Johns Island. Unfortunately, they had to close, and they are currently looking for a new location in the Charleston area. She'll give us all the details on that. But we're going to spend the majority of our time talking about another project that she not only is involved with, but helped start here in Charleston. It's called Females on Fire. It is a women's group for members of Charleston's culinary community that includes everything from restaurant owners and chefs, bakers, brewers, farmers, and on and on. We're going to learn all about what this group is, what they are doing in the community, what they plan to do, and so much more. So, let's get going. Let's not waste any more time. Here it is now, my interview with Courtney Buckley. Joining me now is Courtney Buckley. This week's guest is the owner of Your Mom's Donuts and is one of the founders of Females on Fire, a women's group for members of Charleston's culinary community. I'm so excited to learn about both. Courtney, thank you so much for joining me here today on Holy City Center Radio.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, no problem. Excited to learn more about both. First, let's talk about Your Mom's Donuts, which you started in Charlotte, North Carolina, expanded here to Johns Island last year, but unfortunately had to close. But you are currently looking for a new location in the Charleston area, correct?
Yes, we are very actively looking. We closed due to really not having enough kitchen space and just outgrowing where we were way too quickly. So, I've been looking at spaces actually the last couple of weeks and am continually on the hunt for the perfect spot.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. And I've talked to other business owners. It's always tough to find that perfect spot and then work out all the logistics. So hopefully it won't be too much longer for you. It'll be exciting to have you back open here in Charleston, I'm sure. I bet the reviews, you weren't open super long, but I'm sure people were giving you good feedback too.
Yeah, we stayed super busy. We're certainly ready to be up and functioning again.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely pass on information when you were able to provide it to all our listeners so that they'll know when they can go grab some good donuts here in the Charleston area. But until then, we're going to talk about Females on Fire, which I first learned about back in November. So this is a women's group for members of Charleston's culinary community. So it includes things like restaurant owners, chefs, bakers, brewers, distillers, farmers, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm really excited to learn more and have the community also kind of, get their first listen as to what this is about. So if you could you explain what Females on Fire is exactly?
Man, that's like a loaded question. So many things I want to do with it. For now, it's been a support group, for lack of better terminology. I mean, the last couple of years have just been, I know for me personally, but super exhausting to be in food and bev. It's a tough time. And most of us that are in this industry are in it because we love it so much, but we're all people, and we're not allowed to be people right now. So to try and be able to get us all back together under one roof, and there's lots of big hopes. We've actually, I hope I'm allowed to say this, I don't know why I wouldn't be, but we're in conversations with Florence Crittenton, which helps mostly teenage and young single mothers, runaways, kids that have come out of the foster program, stuff like that. And we're hoping to set up a mentorship program through that as well, and help other young women that are looking to enter this industry. So on top of being just a support group for my personal peers, but also to be a mentorship program for those looking to head this direction.
Oh, that's awesome. And, so you have this business in Charlotte, you start coming to Charleston, you're going to open your own business here. And then that's when you started thinking about, creating this group. And, so if you could tell me a little bit more about that, like what made you, like, how did Females on Fire come to be? Was this something that you saw in your community in Charlotte, or, what exactly brought you to this point?
Yeah, we didn't really have a women's group in Charlotte, but we do have an amazing nonprofit that supports chefs and farmers and sort of connects the local food industry in the area. It's called the Piedmont Culinary Guild. And so when I moved down here, there wasn't anything like that I could find. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm a newbie. I'm sure there's other networks, but I was talking to my PR team about it. And I know for me personally, being a woman in the industry, I'd love to have other women to band with. And as awesome as it was to have the whole network up in Charlotte, there aren't a ton of women in the industry. So the more we sort of sat and fleshed it out, it felt like there could be a real need for a group specifically of women culinary leaders in this community.
Nice. And now that we're a few months into the creation of it, still very much in its infancy here, but give or take, how many women are in the group right now?
So we have had anywhere from 8, our smaller meeting, to 12. We've had we've only met October, November, and December. We are expecting closer to 20 in January. I know with the holidays, there were a lot of people that were wanting to join. And, it's crazy during, November and December specifically in food and bev. So, I would say somewhere between 15 and 20 that have been active in the last few months, but who knows where it'll end up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I said, very much still at the beginning stages. So already having 20 is a good start. I'm sure it's going to keep growing from there. And you all hold meetings every month. And is it at a set location? Is it virtual? How's that working?
No, it's in person. And it is just at whatever member has the space for us. So we have met at the Royal American. We met at Jack of Cups, and oh my gosh, give me a second because it's going to come to me. But we had one other meeting, and I don't know why I'm blanking. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. That's perfectly fine.
It's going to come to me in like 5 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there for you.
Absolutely. That's fine. Not a problem at all. So you've had these meetings, and so far, I know it could evolve.
Oh, Pink Cactus. We met at Pink Cactus.
Very
Boom.
nice.
I knew it was in there.
Yeah. 3 very good places, for sure. So what do these so far, what does a typical Females on Fire meeting look like? Like what's discussed? What goes down at these meetings?
I mean, man, we have discussed everything from being a mother in food and bev to the absolute shit show. Am I allowed to say that on here?
Absolutely.
That is employing people in food and bev right now. It's so hard. supply chain issues. We've, had that conversation. And man, last time we met, or maybe it was the time before, we were talking about dairy sheep because I really want to get some. So it's just it's been all over the place for sure.
So it's kind of like you mentioned, a support group, people who are in the same industry can talk about current issues, things they see coming up, just kind of help each other get through, bounce ideas off each other and things like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Very cool. And also it sounds like, based on what you said before, it's not going to just be that. There may be events or other things that you've gotten your hands into, like you mentioned, the mentoring project that you all are working towards. What else, not that that's minor by any means, but what else has the group done so far? Is it really just talking about the mentoring and having meetings, or is there anything else that you were able to discuss?
Yeah, no, I mean, in the last couple of months, it's really just been trying to see who our core is going to be and who's even interested in joining us. And then I know this will sort of flesh itself out here in the next few months of what our mission really becomes. I mean, I've always been the kind of person, I like to say, I jump out of the airplane and build a parachute on the way down. And this just feels no different. It's like we jumped out of the airplane and we're doing the thing, but we're still in the process of building the parachute to see what it looks like.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, hey, some of the best plans go that way. You have a great idea and sometimes you just kind of have to jump in and go with it. So it sounds like, you have a pretty good idea of what you want the group to be, but specifics are things that'll be worked out as you have more meetings and more members and you'll start, planning out things for the future. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, eventually to be able to do some fundraising within the community and highlight, I would love to down the road have an interactive map we could throw up and have, if you came into the city and wanted to find all the women-owned businesses in our community, it wouldn't be a hard thing to do. So, there's a lot of goals and, in month 3, we're just picking out which ones are going to come first.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, for only being around 3 months, it sounds like you've already got some good plans, already got a lot on your plate for this group, which is great. And, I think for a lot of people listening, this is probably an obvious, or you'll probably give an answer that should seem obvious to this question, but I feel like it's important. And some people will ask, why did you feel it was important to create a group that was specific for women in this industry?
Women and men function differently for sure. And we have strengths and weaknesses. And I really feel like there are less of us, there have been always. And so to be able to band together and talk to other specifically women who have that separate set of strengths and weaknesses, and not that we're all the same. And this is obviously overgeneralizing for sure.
Sure. But
it's so nice to be able to sit down at a table with direct peers of mine and be able to communicate. There's lots of other groups that are for food and bev, I mean, there's just a lot of culinary industry groups where I could go sit down and just sit down with whoever, but there aren't very, very many focused on women. And if we're going to bring in young women, especially young women at risk, it feels like a really powerful thing to be able to say, here's a big group of women who are doing this thing, come with us.
For sure. Yeah. And, one thing that comes to mind is the culinary, food and bev industries have had their own reckoning, as many others have had over the past few years, with Me Too movement and coming to terms with things that were kind of like always okay, quote unquote, and that's just the way things were done. And so I'm sure that's part of it too, where,
Oh, I've been asked questions by, I'm a mom, right? I have 3 little kids and I was a single mom for a long time running my business and had my children. And I had a news reporter ask me if I was a mother first or an entrepreneur first. And it was a woman. And I guarantee you, no reporter asks a man if he is a father first or an entrepreneur first. So, there's still those things that we as women I mean, this was like, 4 years ago, this isn't like 30 years ago,
Wow.
So, I mean, it's still so prevalent in the industry. And so it is nice to feel like we've got each other to lean on. It's nice to just be able to say, hey, this happened. And you're like, shit, that happened to me too,
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at with the question. I'm sure there's certain things that are just easier to talk about with certain peer groups versus others, or the entire industry as a whole. So, that certainly makes sense and demonstrates, that kind of question was just 4 years ago, so there's still lots of work to be done in the industry and outside, because that was a reporter. They're not even in the industry, they have their own issues. So no, that definitely makes sense. And
So I've been asked if I was the wife working in my own business. Like,
Oh my
no,
gosh.
I'm not anybody's wife, and this is mine.
Was that a customer or?
Yes. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
just had a customer. Like I was like the cute little wife sitting behind the counter, you know, and
Oh
it
my
was like,
gosh.
goodness, no, that's not true at all. So, yeah.
No. So, and I don't have any specifics in front of me numbers wise, and I don't even know if you'll know, but as we're talking about it, it popped in my head, I would think in general, food and bev is pretty, it's probably close to 50-50 as far as employees in general, men versus women. But in management and in higher positions, is it, as far as you've seen in your own experience, or maybe even know specific numbers, is it more male dominated, or is it still pretty, or is it equal?
In my direct sphere, I would say not equal at all. You know, I mean, very, very male dominated still.
So yeah, another reason why a group like this is important, to help a minority group within a field, be able to talk and work things out with each other and discuss problems that, maybe some of the men that work there won't understand or might not be as helpful since they're not going through it. So certainly makes sense. Yeah. So for anyone who's listening, who can join Females on Fire? How do they do it? How do they get involved?
So I am hopeful that there can be a link with all the actual like emails and stuff, but our PR team handles all the intake. So there will be an email that can we put that in the notes?
Absolutely.
So I mean,
yep.
I can pull, okay, perfect. And anybody in any kind of leadership role in food and bev is the answer. And I don't care if you work, like as a farmer or a cookbook author or, a food writer, or you're the chef of a restaurant, or you own your own restaurant. I mean, it really is just for anyone in the food and bev sphere in leadership roles.
Okay, very cool. Yeah. And so more so for people in like leadership roles, as you said, or really anyone?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. People in leadership roles. You don't have to be an owner for sure, but whether you're a GM of a space or that would be the crowd we're going for.
Okay, great. Yeah, and we'll put the email in the show notes, so anybody who's listening, that's how you can get some more information or ask to join or whatever questions you may have. We'll definitely put those out there. Before I let you go, is there anything else regarding Females on Fire or your business, Your Mom's Donuts, that you want to talk about that I didn't ask or we didn't get to?
I don't think so. I'm never good at that final question. My brain is wrapped up in all the things we were talking about.
I know. I hear you. Yeah, I know. I feel like we did a good job covering the basics of the group and letting people know that this is a new group that's out there and what you all are looking to do towards the future. But I didn't know if there was just a little something in the back of your mind that maybe we didn't touch on. And if you think of it later, of course, we can always, add it to the notes or whatnot. But yeah, it sounds like a great group in the works here. I think it'll be really beneficial to our community. And I think people will certainly be interested in what you're doing. And I mean, of course, they're going to be interested in the donuts aspect as well once that reopens. But
I can't wait to get reopened. I miss having my hands in it every day.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Especially once you got like a taste of it, you opened, you got that like that bump, I'm sure of, oh, we're brand new business. People are coming in, new community. And then we're able to, you've got to be like just chomping at the bit to get back out there.
For sure.
Well, I will be happy to stop by and purchase some donuts when you're open. So definitely keep me posted. I have a feeling I will enjoy every one that you have, and any other updates you have, I'm happy to pass along. But thank you so much for providing background on Females on Fire. I think it's a great group, as I mentioned, and I look forward to see the types of things y'all do in the community and sharing that news. So, Courtney, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And that's it. Another week in the books. Thank you so much to Courtney Buckley, owner of Your Mom's Donuts and one of the founders of Females on Fire, for joining me this week. Another great interview. I was excited to learn more about what she is doing and what this group will be doing in the community. Be sure to check the show notes for more information if you are interested. Also have to thank Lindsay Marie Collins, my producer extraordinaire of LMC Sound System. She also has a podcast, FMB Radio, that you should check out. Thank you to Tyler Boone, who provides the music in each and every episode. Go download his songs on any platform, pretty much, that you find music. And my friend Grace Lancaster Gogan, who created the logo for Holy City Center Radio. A big thank you to her as well. And a thank you to all of you for once again listening, downloading, and just getting through another episode of Holy City Center Radio. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to help me and this program and the website, all sorts of ways to do it, everywhere from going to patreon.com/Holy City Center, signing up to be a patron of Holy City Center, where you can, join different tiers, maybe get some free swag or some behind the scenes info. You can also purchase some of that swag directly at holycitycenter.com/shop. And as always, you can always share posts, retweets, likes, whatever it is. Let people know about the show. Send it to them. Rate and review. Every little thing helps. So I appreciate all of you who keep this thing going. Also, if you own a business and are interested in advertising, reach out to me, Christian at holycitycenter.com. We have all sorts of things on the website as well as this podcast. We can get your business out there. So if you're interested, reach out. And that is it for the thank yous and roundups that I do every week. I feel like I should have that more memorized by now. But thank you again for listening. I really hope that your new year is off to a great start. I can't wait to talk to you all again soon. So for now, good night and good luck.